Coming up this week on The Spotlight, enough is enough. The 212th mass shooting alone brings tragedy to a Texas town after a total of at least 19 school children and 2 adults were killed in a gunman's rampage. How President Biden and some politicians are calling for an end at last to America's epidemic of gun violence.
Why are we willing to live with this carnage? Why do we keep letting this happen? Where in God's name is our backbone?
Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
But I'm here on this floor to beg, to literally get down on my hands and knees and beg my colleagues. Find a path forward here.
While others claim that there should be more guns to solve the problem.
The most effective tool for keeping kids safe is armed law enforcement on the campus.
Potentially arm and prepare and train teachers and other administrators.
What is the resolution to end America's epidemic of gun violence? And how can we put an end to gun violence? The Spotlight begins right now.
Hello, and welcome to The Spotlight. Joining us as guest co-host today, we're pleased to welcome via Rutkowski back to the show with us here. And we're really starting this show off in a way where we are just heartbroken. We're halfway into 2022, and there's already been more than 240 mass shootings in America, because that number has grown since here. And I hope that number does not grow more by the time you see this episode, because we are a pre-recorded weekly show, but live to tape. But on Tuesday, May 24th, 2022, at least 21 people, 19 school children and 2 teachers were killed in a gunman's rampage at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. It is the deadliest school shooting ever since Sandy Hook nearly a decade ago in December 2012, and since Columbine in April 1999. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are asking the same question over and over, time and time again. Take a look and listen to what they said and reacted.
Another massacre. Uvalde, Texas. An elementary school. Beautiful, innocent, 2nd, 3rd, 4th graders. And how many scores of little children who witnessed what happened see their friends die as if they're on a battlefield, for God's sake. They'll live with it the rest of their lives. There's a lot we don't know yet. There's a lot we do know. The parents who will never see their child again, never have them jump in bed and cuddle with them. Parents will never be the same. To lose a child is like having a piece of your soul ripped away. I am sick and tired of it. We have to act. And don't tell me we can't have an impact on this carnage.
Every time a tragedy like this happens, our hearts break. And our broken hearts are nothing compared to the broken hearts of those families. And yet it keeps happening. So I think we all know and have said many times with each other, enough is enough. Enough is enough. As a nation, we have to have the courage to take action and understand the nexus between what makes for reasonable and sensible public policy to ensure something like this never happens again.
A little footnote, the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting occurred on December 14th, 2012 in Connecticut, which is the U.S. state that Senator Chris Murphy represents. And he spoke out about it on the Senate floor and tried to give a wake-up call to his colleagues. Take a look and listen to this.
President, there are 14 kids dead in an elementary school in Texas right now. What are we doing? What are we doing? Just days after a shooter walked into a grocery store to gun down African American patrons, we have another Sandy Hook on our hands. What are we doing? There have been more mass shootings than days in the year. Our kids are living in fear every single time they set foot in a classroom because they think they're going to be next. What are we doing? Why do you spend all this time running for the United States Senate? Why do you go through all the hassle of getting this job, of putting yourself in a position of authority, if your answer is that as this slaughter increases, as our kids run for their lives, we do nothing? What are we doing? Why are you here? If not to solve a problem as existential as this. This isn't inevitable. These kids weren't unlucky. This only happens in this country and nowhere else. Nowhere else do little kids go to school thinking that they might be shot that day. Nowhere else do parents have to talk to their kids, as I have had to do, about why they got locked into a bathroom and told to be quiet for 5 minutes just in case a bad man entered that building. Nowhere else does that happen except here in the United States of America, and it is a choice. It is our choice to let it continue. What are we doing? In Sandy Hook Elementary School, after those kids came back into those classrooms, they had to adopt a practice in which there would be a safe word that the kids would say if they started to get thoughts in their brain about what they saw that day. If they started to get nightmares during the day, reliving stepping over their classmates' bodies as they tried to flee the school. In one classroom, that word was monkey. And over and over and over through the day, kids would stand up and yell, "Monkey!" And a teacher or a paraprofessional would have to go over to that kid, take them out of the classroom, talk to them about what they had seen, work them through their issues. Sandy Hook will never, ever be the same. This community in Texas will never, ever be the same. Why? Why are we here? If not to try to make sure that fewer schools and fewer communities go through what Sandy Hook has gone through, what Uvalde is going through. Our heart is breaking for these families. Every ounce of love and thoughts and prayers we can send, we are sending. But I'm here on this floor to beg, to literally get down on my hands and knees and beg my colleagues. Find a path forward here. Work with us to find a way to pass laws that make this less likely. I understand my Republican colleagues will not agree to everything that I may support, but there is a common denominator that we can find. There is a place where we can achieve agreement that may not guarantee that America never, ever again sees a mass shooting, that may not overnight cut in half the number of murders that happen in America. It will not solve the problem of American violence by itself, but by doing something, we at least stop sending this quiet message of endorsement to these killers whose brains are breaking, who see the highest levels of government doing nothing, shooting after shooting.
So Senator Chris Murphy, as you saw and listened to that video, obviously asked the question, like, what are we doing and supposed to be doing to prevent gun violence and mass shootings from happening, you know? I mean, what do you think what should be done here, you know?
Yeah, well, it was this whole situation, there's nothing good about it, but to see him speak out in such a form of desperation, that's something we haven't really seen in that space. So it gives you a slight moment of hope to see someone desperately pleading this. And I think what he said was what we're all feeling inside. And I like the part where he mentioned that there has to be a common ground. There has to be. And I think, again, to go along with what he said, it's not going to solve things overnight, but taking a step in the right direction is what needs to happen, whether it be regulating, purchases of assault rifles, which are not needed. Like, assault rifles are designed for killing in mass amounts, and I don't see why the average person needs to have one.
Right.
And it's just, they're getting into the hands of the wrong people. And you look at the way other countries regulate these things, where guns are still allowed, but not at this level of severity. They go through classes or more detailed background checks or trainings, or have to state reasoning why, where here it's as simple, or in some states, as putting down some money and getting a quick background check for just, your general arrest and criminal record, which some people don't have. That these are their first attempts. They're 18 years old, some of these people committing this. I'm
like, what is a person doing with an AR-15
exactly
at age 18?
Yeah,
I think what I remember seeing and heard about is that they increased the age limit to 21, but some people thought that they should have increased it even further to like 25. And listen, I don't even want to hear another Republican cry about it, because I am this close about to hurt a Republican. All right, so don't tell me anything. I don't want to hear no crying in tissue or anything, because you should have did something more than just what you were doing, because obviously you've done enough. You haven't did anything enough.
Yeah, the silence is deafening. The silence sends the message, and the number just keeps increasing, and it's a really dark and scary thought, but I don't think they're understanding, the side that is against this. It's only a matter of time before it creeps closer and closer. Like, this will affect everyone, and it's terrifying, and it makes me live in fear. So I can't imagine how literal children feel.
Every one of us in fear, because 19 children. I mean, just think, 19 children.
It's sick.
Oof. It's really, I don't know how else I'm feeling, because obviously there's more that needs to be done here. It's a lot. I don't know what else to say here, because obviously, just a quick fact information here, like last year, more than 45,000 people had died from gun violence in the United States. 703 were killed in mass shootings, according to the Gun Violence Archive data here, and mass shootings cover about 75% here of about almost every conversation that we have, no matter what the situation is here. And I just want to quickly bring up, I know we gotta go, but we're going to continue more with this discussion here, because obviously last year ended with 692 mass shootings, according to the Gun Violence Archive. The year before saw 610, rather the year before, we're talking 2020, and in 2019 had 417. And I mean, I don't know, there's got to be more than just what that needs to be done and to prevent all this from happening, because we're not where we are at the moment, and obviously we got to just continue to get our voices to be heard. And the Republicans need to stop blaming the media for this, because obviously the media is trying to hear our voices. Republicans are just not, obviously. But I don't know. We'll be back with more. There's more to this. We'll be back.
My nephew Joshua was 13 when he was killed in 2001. Was living with me at the time. He asked me, can I go by Billy's house? I thought, well, you know, what's the harm in that, you know? My mistake was I assumed that there was a parent home. I assumed his father had his weapon properly secured. The kid had removed the magazine, so the kid was sure that the gun was safe. And what he didn't know was there was a bullet chambered. Joshua had this fear of weapons because he lost his mother to gun violence. I think this kid really pulled the trigger to show Joshua that it was not dangerous. The hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life is to tell my mom we have to bury her grandson. The pain was so great, we just wanted to do something positive. And we also wanted to try to prevent families from experiencing the same pain that this put my family through. We began working with the End Family Fire campaign. Family fire is the accidental shooting of a family member with a weapon that was improperly secured, improperly stored. It's a difficult conversation for people. You don't want to ask or say anything to your neighbors because you don't want to offend them, but there are important things we should know. Where are they going when they play? What is the environment of that home? We have to understand that children are inquisitive, they're curious. And there's not one corner of the house that they haven't gone through. If you're a gun owner, you have to make sure your weapon is inaccessible. It will save the family from the pain and the trauma that my family's put through. Because once that happens, it's forever. And if I could prevent one family from experiencing that, then his life will have some purpose.
Welcome back. We're continuing to discuss about the horrific mass shooting in the Uvalde, Texas elementary school, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott held a press conference about the Texas school shooting massacre. It is another bonehead I cannot stand, and the press conference was interrupted by Democratic challenger Beto O'Rourke, who expressed his anger over safety measures, gun laws, and more. Take a look and listen to this, as well as Senator Schumer's response after that press conference.
Shooting is right now, and you are doing nothing.
No, you need to get his in. This isn't the place to talk this over.
This is totally predictable when you...
Sir, you're out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Please leave this auditorium. I can't believe you're a sick son of a would come to a deal like this to make a political issue.
And these families, my colleagues, don't want thoughts and prayers. They want their elected leaders to respond to their suffering. They don't want to be lifted up. They don't want good intentions. They want something to change. They want results. Yet, the MAGA Republicans don't want to get to results. They're ossified in their opposition to any action on gun safety. No matter the cause of violence and no matter the cost on the families, nothing seems to move them. After Beto O'Rourke confronted Texas Governor Abbott's press conference, the MAGA governor gave some empty platitudes about healing and hope. He asked people to put their agendas aside and think about someone other than themselves. My God, how dare he? What an absolute fraud the governor of Texas is. Governor Abbott, will you ask your MAGA buddies and your NRA pals to put aside their agendas and think of someone other than themselves, like you asked the families to do? Will you ask the gun manufacturing reps who swarm over the NRA convention to put aside their agendas and think about someone other than themselves? Of course not. The governor, Governor Abbott, is more likely to outline some new plan to further loosen gun restrictions. No amount of bloodshed seems to be enough for MAGA Republicans. This nation is enraged as well as being exhausted.
As you heard, Senator Schumer said it. So what do you think? And was Beto O'Rourke's idea of interrupting the proceedings an appropriate protest, like a wake-up call for politicians, or just an example of political theater? Because I really don't understand how is this like a political issue when your voices are trying to get heard of what is going on down there, of what occurred. All right, because this is not a political issue. This is really a gun issue that needs to be resolved, and political leaders need to step it up and hear their voices, and they're not doing that here.
Yeah, it's buried in politics and buried in old beliefs that were built upon hundreds of years ago. I know the Second Amendment argument is always coming up when it comes to this, but I think the whole idea of gun control is not to take away everyone's guns, but just kind of restrict the types, like we were just talking about before, of ones that are just, there's no need. These are killing machines or designed for war and things like that. But I don't think what Beto O'Rourke did was out of line, because I'm on his side of the argument here. I see obviously how that upset people, but I don't know what else to do. It's like people almost have to start reacting in this extreme way to maybe stir a little something. It's out of desperation and out of the safety of everyone that these people are acting, and it's just it's so much to process from the outside. We're obviously not in the room with them making these decisions, but it is painful, and for it to ever be framed as a selfish act or an agenda to grieving parents, and it's disgusting. It
is disgusting. And
lack of empathy.
Yeah, Dan Patrick and Abbott, they're the disgusting governors of all time, all right? Because I'm not going to, listen, I want to make a joke, but I'm not even going to do it, because this is really, I know because here at the show we try to uplift everyone, but I'm really just not in the mood, because I'm this close about to snap out with those MAGA Republicans that just don't give a damn about our country. They are anti-democracy, and I am sick of it. Those Texas governors, as well as that Texas senator, and all those MAGA Republicans, they are out of line and out of order.
We deserve the right to feel safe.
Bingo.
Period.
Bingo. What else is there to be? Because listen, we have to be mindful and understand that we are not going anywhere. And I've said this from time and time over again. We are not going anywhere. We are strong and brave folks who will not let gun violence happen anywhere, no matter what the circumstance is whatsoever, whether if it's a mass shooting or anywhere where we are. We are not going to let this happen at all, okay? We'll see you after the break. We'll be back with more.
Dang, bro, I'm so late. Yeah, I'm late to class, man. Thinking about who I was gonna vote for, probably Drew. Jasmine. No, bro, she's fake. She's fake.
President, here you go. Thank you. Hi, guys. Vote for me for class president. Hi, ladies. I'm not voting for this. Can you believe this? Bye, ladies.
Someone wrote dead man on my poster.
Dude. This Sherlock, right?
Just leave me alone.
You're not voting for your ex-boyfriend.
Here you go. Thank you. Hi guys, vote for me for class president.
Your principal speaking. Don't forget, cast your vote today.
All right, come on, guys. Gym class ended 5 minutes ago. Let's go.
Yo, stupid freak!
Look at me!
Where's your emergency?
Everyone's on their way. What happened? Your friend's not breathing. She's dead? Yes, please get my mom and dad. Oh my God!
We're back and still talking about the horrific mass shooting in the Uvalde, Texas elementary school. And the demand for answers is still growing louder as more reports emerge about the Uvalde police sitting idle while 21 people were shot and killed. Here's what the Texas Director of Public Safety had to say on Friday, May 27th. Take a look.
You say there were 19 officers gathered in the hallway or somewhere. What efforts were made to try and break through that door? You say it was locked. What efforts were the officers making to try and break through either that door or another door to get inside that classroom?
None at that time. The on-scene commander at the time believed that it had transitioned from an active shooter to a barricaded subject.
You have people who are alive, children who are calling 911 saying, please send the police. They are alive in that classroom. There are lives that are at risk.
Hey,
that's not protocol, is it?
We're well aware of that.
Right,
Yeah.
but why was this decision made not to go in and rescue these children?
Again, you know, the on-scene commander considered it a barricaded subject and that there was time and there were no more children at risk. Obviously, you know, based upon the information we have, there were children in that classroom that were at risk, and it was, in fact, still an active shooter situation and not a barricaded subject. There was 19 officers in there. In fact, there was plenty of officers to do whatever needed to be done, with one exception, is that the incident commander inside believed they needed more equipment and more officers to do a tactical breach at that point. That's why BORTAC was requested on the scene as soon as they were there. They executed a search, or at least a dynamic entry, and went in, and of course, that was not till 12. That was not till 12:57. With the benefit of hindsight, stand by, all right? I got it. Okay. Hey, from the benefit of hindsight, where I'm sitting now, of course it was not the right decision. It was the wrong decision. Period. There's no excuse for that. But again, I wasn't there, but I'm just telling you, from what we know, we believe there should have been an entry at that as soon as you can. Hey, when there's an active shooter, the rules change. It's no longer, okay, it's no longer a barricaded subject. We don't have time. You don't worry about outer perimeters. And by the way, Texas embraces active shooter training, active shooter certification, and that doctrine requires officers, we don't care what agency you're from, you don't have to have a leader on the scene. Every officer lines up, stacks up, goes and finds where those rounds are being fired at and keeps shooting until the subject is dead, period.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess we're both having this discussion question in terms of
Sure.
like why was nothing done to prevent it from happening? I'm like,
right. It's almost like if the police or whoever's coming in to save people in situations like this are so afraid and or like ill prepared to fight off someone with a weapon like this, it's like, why can any ordinary person go and purchase one?
right.
It's so much deeper. It's like requires such a backtrack of issues.
Not only that, it's also a matter of why is it the police didn't use their brains quick enough to come up with a solution? Why did it take them this long, where I feel like you probably would have had from like the deaths could have went from like 21 down, or to like prevent, or like only to maybe like say 1 to 2, or perhaps even better, 0 deaths, you know?
Yeah. It's so frustrating to hear someone simply say, oh, well, in hindsight, we should have done something this way or that way. And he's saying they have mass shooter training, which that alone is terrifying that needs to exist, but it does. And I wonder, does there need to be an update to that? What does that look like? Because it's crazy that there were that many cops there that could have helped, and this still happened to a huge degree.
Totally. And one of the things I want to point out here, because CNN had reported that the 212th mass shooting on May 24th was at least the 38th at a K through 12 school, colleges, and universities so far throughout this year here, while a number of idiotic Fox News guests and idiotic Republicans. I'm going to try to omit those words, but I'm still trying to get all this out of my system. Just all right, because obviously this has gone too far for sure. Yeah. And you know, because they mainly focused on topics such as hardening schools, arming teachers, and mental health. Like arming teachers with like guns. I'm like, I've heard about it. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
That is like the worst solution I've ever heard them do. And talk about mental health. I'm like, come on.
Yeah. That's a disturbing thought about teachers being armed.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that later, but I just wanted to bring that up here because, you know, on Governor Abbott, who cut $211 million from a state department that oversees mental health programs in April, while also further loosening the state's gun laws, conceded that this Slane's teenage suspect had no known criminal history or mental health issues. Like, this is not an issue with the mental health. I'm like, where do we go from here? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the mental health factor, you know, it contributes on a larger scale, but that's something that needs to start being taught from a much younger age so people don't get to this place and don't harbor so much hate in their hearts.
Yeah.
By, you know, learning how to be able to develop empathy and compassion and hopefully never make a decision like this to go and shoot anyone, never mind a bunch of children.
Yeah, because obviously the police, you know, I'm going to quote this in Judge Judy's words because she made an excellent point on it. Because what some police are stupid. That's Judge Judy's words. I'm just quoting her words because obviously it's an interpretation to comprehend on that. It's like they don't know what they're doing, and obviously they're not acting fast enough to prevent from all this from happening again. Because anything can happen at any moment now. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll be back, y'all, with more.
You told me not to talk to strangers. You told me not to cross the street with out looking both ways.
You told me not to touch the stove.
You told me not to do drugs.
You told me not to drink and drive.
You gave me so many messages about how to stay safe. Why didn't you keep me safe by properly storing your gun?
Great having you.
Incredible women. I wish they had those kind of cool careers for women when we were growing up.
Thank you.
So in this flashback, we're all the same age?
Yeah.
So, what does everyone want to be when they grow up? Yes.
I want to make immersive video games.
Oh, I love the arcade.
If I say 2 jobs, do I get extra credit?
No.
I want to revolutionize 3D printing.
3D, like those glasses we were in the movies.
I want to analyze data from the cloud.
I just want to get my hands unstuck. Oh,
Yep.
I want to be a meteor.
You mean meteorologist?
No.
That's great, Al. Follow your dreams.
For the record, I was a baby in the 70s.
Well, what I want viewers to get when they watch our program is a perspective that they're not getting from the general media.
To uplift our people by giving them information that they might not hear from what they would consider primary sources.
We're from the same community. We go to the same places to eat. We go to the same places to worship. So we also look at things from their perspective.
Community Cop, live Tuesday at 5 p.m. MNN1.
Welcome back. We're continuing to discuss the mass shooting that occurred at an elementary Texas school in Uvalde, Texas. V, I'm going to continue to give this to you, and because I'm still at a point I'm this close, because we're about to talk about this segment where I'm this close to cursing out that Senator Ted Cruz, the coward himself. So I will take a little breather once again. Go ahead, Via.
You got it. So, Texas Senator Ted Cruz has said in multiple interviews that an unlocked back door was to blame for the Uvalde school shooting. However, a UK reporter pressed Senator Cruz on gun legislation and why mass shootings like this seem to only happen in America. Take a look at this clip.
There are 19 sets of parents who are never going to get to kiss their child goodnight again.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
You know, it's easy to go to politics.
But it's important. It's at the heart of the issue.
I get that that's where the media likes to go.
No, it's not. It's where many of the people we've talked to here like to go.
The proposals from Democrats in the media, inevitably, when some violent psychopath murders people.
A violent psychopath who's able to get a weapon so easily. 18-year-old with 2 AR-15s.
If you want to stop violent crime, the proposals the Democrats have, none of them would have stopped this.
But why does this only happen in your country? I really think that's what many people around the world they cannot fathom. Why only in America? Why is this American exceptionalism so awful?
You know, I'm sorry you think American exceptionalism is awful.
I think this aspect of it.
You got your political agenda.
No, it's honestly,
God love you.
Senator, it's not. I just want to understand why you do not think that guns are the problem.
Why is this just an American problem?
It is just an American problem, sir.
Mr. Cruz, why is America the only country that faces this kind of mass shooting?
But you can't answer that. You can't answer that, can you, sir? You can't answer that. Why is this country?
Why is it that people come from all over the world to America? Because it's the freest, most prosperous, safest country on earth.
It may be the freest. It may be the most.
Why are our kids dying in school?
It may be. What do you think? Obviously, he is a coward, obviously.
Yeah, that reporter from the UK took the words right out of my mouth, and I think right out of everyone's mouth, because that really is a huge question on the table why is it only an issue here? I mean, I think we know kind of the answer of that, but why is that so hard to answer for Ted Cruz?
Yeah.
Like he just was dodging that question, and
like every MAGA Republican does.
Right, and every reporter, was saying and asking the same thing, and that's the question I ask myself, and I think about over and over in my head while we're all trying to think about this a little bit of why only here, and how daunting is that? We have so many amazing things here in the United States, but this is becoming something really major that everyone has to live with.
Allow me to read something that John Legend, the singer, had said when he slammed that coward Ted Cruz here, because John Legend called Senator Ted Cruz a slimy coward, where he said, "Dear God, the idiocy, no gun reforms, just door reform from Ted Cruz here." I can't imagine why any Texan would want this slimy coward representing such a proud state here. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, and he has young children.
But obviously, it's like he only cares about himself. And obviously, when I hear him say there are 19 sets of parents, he just really did not give a damn.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Because listen, obviously, and Legend continued as saying, like, well, I probably get the point, but I really don't know what else to say here, because obviously, well, the only thing I could bring up here is that a recent survey from the CDC revealed that the firearm injuries became the leading cause of death among children and adolescents in the United States in 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting here, and Legend made the point where the NRA represents gun manufacturers. They need you to buy more guns. Their answer will continue to be ratchet up the civilian arms race so much, and there's so much blood in the hands. And Legend responded to Fox News appearance of Greg Cruz, who called the shooting horrific. Let me put it this way: if Cruz, are really such a coward, because if you really thought you were horrific, you would have done more than just shed your tears. Because obviously you're doing nothing right now, and you really are just making the entire country sick and not listening to our voices at all. All you're thinking about is themselves. Get your MAGA buddies to listen to our voices. And maybe one day there'll be less gun violence occurring in the United States. We'll be right back.
Do you want to meet a family with a transgender kid? Here we are. We love our kids unconditionally, and we will never stop fighting for them. Stand with us. Protect our families.
Your son wants to get a cat, but you're allergic. Do you A, prepare yourself, B, make the best of it,
C squared equals 25. Good job!
or C, find a loophole? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
We're still talking about this horrific mass shootings. Throughout the hour, we've been talking about the horrific mass shootings that occurred across the nation, mainly in Uvalde, Texas, at the elementary school that killed 2 adults and 19 children. But in addition, violence and more mass shootings occurred throughout the past couple weeks in places like Tulsa, Oklahoma, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Smithsburg, Maryland, just the recent one, and Chattanooga, Tennessee. And it really just makes many of us heartbroken and speechless still. But obviously, we talked about this early in the show in terms of about between mental health and gun control, but with just the debate question are really this: is mental health above gun control, or is gun control above mental health? And what are the different approaches to putting an end to mass shootings across America? Basically wherever,
Yeah, I think mental health above all, I feel like contributes to a lot of societal issues.
Yes.
However, I don't think it's the only thing and the only way that we can help this issue. I think I kind of mentioned this before too, if you look at, a chart or a comparison of how do you get a gun in the USA versus how do you get a gun in Canada or Japan or, the UK, any other country, the process is extensive. You have to go through a detailed background check, a mental health evaluation sometimes, trainings, physical gun trainings. I've also seen, I forget which country this was for as well, maybe it was India that I read, was that you also have to state reasoning for, okay, you want to buy a gun, no problem, but what for?
Right.
What is your intended use? Which people can lie, but to put them through this much effort would definitely deter some people away from just simply making a purchase one day on a whim and deciding to perform a mass shooting the next day. I would imagine it would slow that down.
Yeah, because people need to understand that mental illness is not a significant predator of violence at all right? And obviously Republicans are still using that term for years, even since who was president. And because obviously the thing we got to note is that violence has many interacting factors of mental illness alone and is very rarely the cause. Only 4% of violence in the United States is attributable to mental illness.
Wow.
And maybe, I'm not sure, and people can correct us if I'm wrong, because I keep hearing that mental illness was part of it when the Las Vegas massacre occurred in 2017, when the person from one of the hotels shot people, all that, killed a lot of innocent lives. I'll never forget that. It was just really just heartbroken just going through that. But we got to be mindful that it's not really mental illness. It's about, if you're given a gun, what are you going to do with it? People are not thinking smart and wise about that.
Yeah.
Because obviously, that's the thing that many people are not understanding here, is that they're not using the gun wisely and not using their brain of what to do with it, basically.
Right. There needs to be a lot more effort, in just the process of that. 100%. You have to go through more to drive a car. You have to go through more to do so many other things. Why? You could perform an awful task like that with a car as well, but it's and I've heard that argument used before, which is why I referenced it, that people kill people, guns don't kill people, but why are we putting these assault weapons in the hands of people who have no training, no background of having not the right to use them, but the experience of using them? And even if it was experience from military or something, why do you need it as a civilian on a day-to-day basis?
Yes.
Why?
Right, because we're having this debate about it, but I'm also trying to fact check those MAGA Republicans so that way they don't mess this up, because according to the CDC, they define mental illness as conditions that affect a person's thinking, feeling, or mood or behavior, and the CDC also finds serious mental illness as a mental illness or disorder with serious functional impairment that substantially interferes with or limits one or more major life activities. All right, because obviously you MAGA Republicans want to continue to give out fake news and false information and alternative facts, because then I just don't know what to do with you. And obviously, because if you guys refuse to listen to our voices, then you're not representing our country at all. And I've said enough with y'all, because obviously you obviously just don't seem to care at all.
Yeah.
If you want to give a final quick no-go for it, because obviously I've said enough on
Sure.
this.
I mean, I think as a final note, just that fact from the CDC really was something. And I think that gun violence, 1, is an epidemic. 2, it needs to be treated as a sickness in this country.
Yeah, not only that, another important note, hate is not a mental illness. That's another thing we need to note, okay?
100%.
Totally. We'll be right back, y'all.
Hi, welcome to this week's YC Weekly, brought to you by this cup of coffee. How do you keep me so energized?
Enjoying that cup of caffeine, are you?
Cup of what?
Caffeine. That's what keeps you so energized.
What is caffeine?
Caffeine is a common chemical found in many of the products we consume every day.
Like what?
Like that cup of coffee you're drinking, as well as tea, cola, and chocolate.
And I'm drinking it? What does it do?
Well, a lot of things. And it depends on how much caffeine you consume. Too much can cause caffeine withdrawal.
I've never heard of caffeine withdrawal. What's that?
It can happen when your body gets accustomed to caffeine. When the caffeine is taken away from your diet, you may experience some symptoms such as irritability, nausea, and headaches.
Oh my goodness, that can't be true. What other horrible things has coffee been doing to my body?
Well, Jude, I wouldn't worry so much. Coffee and other caffeinated products, when consumed in moderation, can be beneficial to your health.
How so? And how do you know my name?
Caffeine makes your brain more alert and can enhance your mood significantly. Drinking coffee can even reduce your risk for oral cancer and give you longevity.
That ain't half bad. But now I'm confused.
That may be the coffee talking.
I just want to know, should I keep drinking coffee in the morning or not? I don't want to get sick, but I don't want to miss out on those health benefits you mentioned either.
In the end, it's all up to you. Caffeine is best consumed in moderation.
That makes sense. What else can you tell me about caffeine?
A majority of energy drinks contain a lot of caffeine, including Red Bull, Monster Energy, 5-Hour Energy, as well as a lot of sugar.
So how is caffeine different from sugar? Both seem to give me energy.
Sugar and caffeine both can induce an energy boost. However, each of their effects are quite different. Coffee by itself has no sugar.
That's right. I decide how much sugar goes into my cup of joe. What happens when I do combine sugar and caffeine though?
Combining a lot of caffeine with a lot of sugar is not such a great idea. The surge of energy can have some negative effects, such as a sugar crash.
Now I get it. Like almost everything, caffeine is great in moderation. I just shouldn't have too much or combine it with a lot of sugar.
Well, that's it for this week's YC Weekly. Be sure to like our social media pages and subscribe to our channel. And we'll see you next time.
All right. We're back. I just want to bring up one thing because, you know, I was looking for this note that I wanted to share with y'all because, you know, when we talk about with what we're going through the entire show here, because with the last debate where we talked about with mental health and gun violence here, but they say that gun violence prevention policies that focus solely on mental illness diagnosis will not stop gun violence and instead could fuel prejudice and fear around people living with a mental illness and may lead to people avoiding mental health services. We must dispel the myth. And the myth we're referring to is that every Republican uses is that mental illness causes gun violence and mass shootings. That's a myth and false. The fact is that mental illness is not a significant risk for or a predator of interpersonal violence. The majority of people with mental illness do not encourage in violence against others, and most violence is caused by factors other than mental illness here. So, yeah.
And that is hate.
That's it. There you go. We just hit it on the nose, and you know, just time just goes so quick, you know, when we're talking about this, but you know, we want to thank you all for watching and joining us this hour, and we thank you, Via, for guest co-hosting with us. It's been a pleasure as always having you on, even throughout this rough, tough, difficult hour here. But before we go, there's another thing I want to also note here, and I'd like to take a quick moment on a lighter note and congratulate the class of 2022 as they continue their path of their success and goals ahead, as we are currently already in graduation season.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I'd like to share this important message with them, as well as everyone else is watching here, for them to be mindful of. And we want you to know one important thing that's a fact, and that's this. We will fear no evil. And that's the main thing. Until then, good luck, be well, be safe, keep it 100, see it down the road, and see you on the spotlight.